Hello, good evening. This is Burke Lyle here, and we're going to do an interesting video series. We're going to go to 506sports.com, and we're going to talk about each NFL broadcast assignment throughout Week 16. So here we go, national broadcasts. So on Thursday night, tomorrow night, you have San Francisco and Tennessee, Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson. Normally, they're the number two NFL broadcast team where they broadcast usually the second best games. Usually those games take place at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the most part, where again it's where they get a lot of the coverage, Burkhardt and Olson, San Francisco and Tennessee. Saturday at 4:30 is Christmas Day. You have Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Again, normally they do Thursday night, and not only that, they usually have the very best Fox game of the week that's usually seen by most of the country, except for your local area that involves your local team that's not those teams. Cleveland and Green Bay, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. And then Indianapolis and Arizona, that's on Saturday night at 8:15. That'll be on NFL Network. That'll be Joe Davis and Kurt Warner. Remember last week they did Browns and Raiders that took place in Cleveland. It got moved to a Monday. Joe Davis and Kurt Warner. Again, Joe Davis, the broadcaster, again, is climbing the Fox ladder. Usually does college games on Fox, normally Pac-12, not always. Also is the voice of the Dodgers, MLB on Fox as well. It's just a notch below Joe Buck. Joe Davis, it would be interesting as he's in his early 30s if he'll continue to climb the Fox ladder and eventually do events like the Super Bowl and or the World Series in addition to his high-profile role with the Dodgers. Definitely up and coming. Sunday Night Football, Washington and Dallas. Again, a rematch. This time it's in Dallas, not Washington, from 2 weeks earlier. That'll be on NBC. Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth. Sometimes you do have Mike Tirico, so that's something to keep an eye on. Happened last week. Monday Night Football, Miami and New Orleans. That's on ESPN. It's interesting. Miami 7-7 on a 6-game winning streak. Once 1-7. New Orleans Saints very much alive in the playoff race as well. That game will be on ESPN. Normally Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Louis Riddick as well. Me personally, I prefer to listen to Monday Night Football on the radio. Kevin Harlan might not be Kurt Warner this week again, doing a game on Saturday. But then again, can he handle 2 games in 3 days? Kurt Warner, that'll be interesting to see. More of a radio guy than TV. So CBS early now. We're in the early slot of games. Buffalo and New England again. The Patriots won that game on Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago. Where I think they ran through literally 3 times. New England, Buffalo at New England. It's going to be cold, I think. Should be cold. Iron Eagle Charles Davis. Yes, Iron Eagle normally handles those games in addition to his Nets duty and also NBA and TNT. Baltimore and Cincinnati again. That could have been a national game with Iron Eagle and Charles Davis, or even a game with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. But it's Kevin Harlan and Trent Green again. Kevin Harlan, the number 3 team on CBS, also has Monday Night Football, which will be going to, trying to see the location, is in New Orleans. So again, we'll be going from Cincinnati to New Orleans, back-to-back nights. In addition, also has NBA on TNT duties on Tuesdays as well. So that's 3 games in a row for Kevin Harlan. Baltimore and Cincinnati, Harlan and Trent Green. I wonder if Lamar Jackson will play. Jacksonville and the New York Jets again. Not a very good game at all. Jaguars and the Jets is Spiro Dedes and Jay Feely. Spiro Dedes, once upon a time, looked to be a rising star in the business again, is a successful broadcaster. Again, a lot of people would want to be Spiro Dedes. Gets to call March Madness games, do or die games, including the 4-1 day in the first round, but not quite the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Gets to call NFL games. Gets to call NBA playoff games for Turner. Has a role, does some NBA TV games, usually those Monday night games. So again, a successful broadcaster. A lot of people want to be Spiro Dedes, but again, if you compare Spiro to someone like Kevin Harlan or Ian Eagle, or even to that matter, then it's not quite the same. Andrew Catalon, again, similar level to Spiro Dedes with CBS Sports. Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, LA Chargers, pretty good game. Houston Texans, as you can see on the map. By the way, Jacksonville and the New York Jets, the only areas that get it are New York and Jacksonville. LA Chargers, basically the LA area. For some reason, parts of Oregon get it. Pacific Northwest, basically the Houston area. That's the only area that gets it there. By the way, New England and Buffalo. Basically, that's in red. Almost all the country gets that except for those other games. As well, CBS late, you have Pittsburgh and Kansas City. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Almost all the country gets that game. Pretty much exclusive. Uh, Except for you have Denver and Las Vegas. Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta. Greg Gumbel, once upon a time at the top of the broadcasting ladder, as we described. Basically, all of the Pacific Northwest gets it. Denver and Vegas, except for LA, except for not Phoenix, and then basically Denver, kind of Mountain Time Zone, gets that game. Even New Mexico as well. Again, I bet people in Colorado like the Broncos, but again, that other state, I think that's Salt Lake City, that's Utah. I don't know if they're how big of Broncos fans there are. I don't know how big of Broncos fans they are in Idaho. In fact, some of Idaho actually gets that other game, Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So it's interesting. So most of that country will be seeing that game. As for us in Atlanta, that's where I am based. That's the game I will be getting as well. So Fox single, we're in the afternoon. LA Rams in Minnesota, that's in red. So this is the most populated Fox game. Since it's interesting, the best Fox broadcasters, by the way, you have Kevin Burkhardt doing Thursday Night Football. You have Joe Buck doing the Christmas game. So that, again, those are your two best Fox the number one and number two Fox teams already on Thursday and Saturday. So on Sunday, it looks like the most watched game will be LA Rams and Minnesota Vikings. Again, big game for the Vikings in terms of playoff implications. Adam Amin and Mark Schiller. It's basically, you'll be getting it throughout California, a lot of the Midwest. Again, Minnesota makes sense. So it's interesting. Most of the country, you talk about San Francisco, kind of the Pacific, Mountain Time Zone, Midwest, Minnesota, they get a lot of it. But then you move to Giants-Eagles. Now, this is interesting. Giants-Eagles. That is a game. It's Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma, which, again, they're probably the number 4 Fox team. You think about Giants-Eagles. That was once a game where you had Sunday Night Football do that game, or Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They used to do that game all the time. Now, it's not the same. It's not the same, especially any game involving the Giants. I mean, you thought about Giants-Cowboys last week. Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma get that again. Do you think Dallas gets it? Parts of the Midwest, kind of around Texas, get it. Much of obviously the Northeast gets that game as well. Obviously New York, upstate New York, even the Washington area, they get it again. Washington football team on Sunday night. Tampa and Carolina, Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez. Much of the South gets it, kind of the Southeast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama. So what this tells me is Alabama is not in Falcons country, except for the border, Mississippi, the Deep South. They get it, and not the Falcons. So it really tells you how much the Falcons really are relevant. The Falcons are really relevant, really, in the state of Georgia, since, again, Tennessee gets it, Kentucky. They get that games. And then, obviously, all of Florida gets it, Tampa and Carolina. Detroit and Atlanta, the only areas that get it are basically the state of Georgia and the state of Michigan. And I guess parts of Ohio. Looks like Toledo's on the map. But obviously, that gets it. So, again, Chris Myers and Robert Smith. And then, finally, the late game, Gus Johnson and Keith Toledo. Looks like Fox has that stronger numbers than CBS, since you have 5 teams right there, plus obviously Burkhardt and Buck, so that's 7 right there. I guess that's Fox at full strength, sometimes CBS. Chicago and Seattle, not a very good game. Basically only the Pacific Northwest and small portions of the Midwest. Chicago looks like Indiana, maybe parts of Ohio. For some reason, Buffalo and Boston get that game. It is a late game, though. It is that. Chicago and Seattle. Gus Johnson and Keith Talib again. Interesting. And Houston gets that game. So Gus Johnson, again, known for being very exciting, primarily a college football and basketball voice. Used to be well known at March Madness and CBS. And then Aqib Talib, former player, played just a few years ago as well. So that is the Fox team. That is our NFL broadcasters for this week. And I look forward to watching. Obviously, me personally, I'm going to say this right now, I'll be watching Detroit and Atlanta. That's my team based in Atlanta. Root for the Falcons. So I'll be watching Chris Myers and Robert Smith. I'm going to say this. I might have to listen to West Durham. You know, sometimes I like to turn the radio on. For a team like that, I think I'll turn the radio on as well.